Sheikh Hasina's resignation from Bangladesh and departure from Bangladesh has created multiple uncertainties also here in India. For over 1.5 decades, remember, she was New Delhi's strongest ally. And during this time, India-Bangladesh ties also reached new heights. This tie flourished with advances in cross-border trade, transit arrangement, security collaboration, and people-to-people exchange. What is going to happen now onwards has made India watch the developments very, very closely. The border security forces also increased patrolling along the 4,000-kilometer long border with Bangladesh, which is largely porous in nature. Let me go straight to Salman, who's joining me live from Dhaka, from outside the former Prime Minister's residence. Salman, so no protests today is what you are picking up. So can we also see further movement on the government formation talks?
So right now I'm inside in front of the Parliament House. There's a huge traffic. Life has become normal. It's like I'll just show you the newspaper people are reading. Today's daily newspaper. Everyone has the first paper showing thousands of people in the Prime Minister's office. The student Abu Said who died. আঙ্কেল আপনি কি কি পড়তেছেন আজকে? কেমন লাগছে আপনার? এখানে কেন আসছেন?
এখানে কেন আসছে মানে জনগণের জয় হয়েছে, আমাদের জনগণের জয় হয়েছে, শরীরের পতন হয়েছে।
So he's saying that the public has won, the dictator has lost. আর কি আজকে কেমন লাগছে? এই যে সকালে পেপারে কি কি পড়লেন?
আরো মধ্যে এখন পড়তে পারি না।
আচ্ছা
এটা আমাদের
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা কালকে কিরকম দেখলেন আর আজকে ভিতরে গিয়েছিলেন? কি দেখছেন?
যাচ্ছে তাই আজকে আমি এখন দেখতে পারি না, লোক আর যাইতে দিচ্ছে না।
So he tells me yesterday he came and now it was all vandalizing. So আপনি এখানে কেন আসছেন? আপনার নাম কি?
আমরা এখানে বিজয় উদযাপন করছি, ছাত্র জনতার বিজয়। এই জালেম স্বৈরাচারকে আমরা বিদায় করেছি। গণ অভ্যুত্থানে তার পতন হতে বাধ্য হয়েছে। অবশেষে সে জনগণের কাছে ক্ষমা চেয়ে বা কোনো কথা বলে যেতে পারে নাই। মাথা নিচু করে তার এই দেশ থেকে বিতাড়িত হতে হয়েছে, চোরের মতো পালাতে হয়েছে। আর আমি আজকে দ্বিতীয় দিন আসলাম আমার ফ্যামিলি নিয়ে, এই সেলিব্রেশনটা আমার ফ্যামিলিকে নিয়ে আমি উদযাপন করলাম।
I am celebrating. I'm here. I came yesterday. He just tells me he was celebrating yesterday when this dictator left, and now today he brought his family to show them, and he is very happy that the freedom has been restored. Apa kichu bolben? We are very happy that we have won the freedom. We have won this war. Ab apnar naam? কেমন লাগলো? ভিতরে গিয়ে কি দেখছেন? ভিতরে কি ছিল?
কি ভাষা বুঝতে পারছি না। আনন্দিত জনগণের
সামলে পড়ে সবকিছু
সরকার হয়ে গেছে, সে দেশ পালিয়ে গেছে, স্বৈরাচার থেকে আমরা মুক্তি পেলাম। এই দ্বিতীয়বার দেশ স্বাধীন হলো। আমরা এই সরকার থেকে।
So he's saying we are very happy the dictator government has gone. The second independence and freedom has come and we have seen it. That's all. And there we have another guy standing here. একটু বলবেন আপনি কেমন লাগছে আজকে এবং কালকের সিচুয়েশনটা দেখে?
কালকে তো খুবই এই টাইমে খুবই নীরবতা ছিল, আজকে তো এই টাইমে সম্পূর্ণ সিনারি চেঞ্জ। তবে স্বৈরাচারী সরকার পতনে সেটার জন্য খুবই খুশি, কিন্তু আমি খুবই মর্মাহত যে সরকারি সম্পত্তি এভাবে মানুষ লুটপাট করছে, এটার জন্য খুবই আমি মর্মাহত। সরকারি সম্পত্তি ভাবে লুট করা ঠিক হয় নাই। অন্যান্য দেশের সরকার পতন হয়েছে কিন্তু তারা উল্লাস করছে, আনন্দ করছে, কিন্তু সরকারি মালামাল লুট করে নাই।
I'm very happy. I was here yesterday also. His mind told me he was here yesterday. He was celebrating, but he have also seen people from the other country has dictator government has fallen, but he didn't see that they were looting. He's upset that these people are looting everything. is happy that the
A word
dictator government
from the gentleman who's reading the newspaper. Could he tell us the headline in the papers today? What are the headlines in papers in Dhaka? Could you tell me?
পেপারের শিরোনাম কি ঢাকার একটু যদি বলেন ছাত্র জনতার বিজয় উল্লাস জনসাধারণের বিজয় উল্লাস so today so the headline for today আরেকবার বলেন আর আর এখানে আজকের পত্রিকার হেডলাইন কি ছাত্র জনতার বিজয় আর পত্রিকায় একই হেডলাইন so he says the headline of the newspaper is student and publics win and freedom from a dictator government.
So, student and public have won is the sentiment that's coming from the streets of Dhaka. Let me bring in Pinak Chakravarti, former Deputy High Commission of India in Dhaka. He served from 1999 to 2002. We also have Lieutenant General Narsimhan joining us as well. Thank you so much for your time here. But Ambassador Chakravarti, coming to you, you know, you heard the gentleman who was there on the streets of Dhaka. The sentiment almost seems to be that of second independence.
Well, that's a rhetorical thing, and clearly there is some jubilation, and there has been a successful regime change in Dhaka. Now, there was a public, I think, mood which had built up, and I don't think Prime Minister Hasina read it rightly or correctly. And now what has happened is that we'll have a new government, and we'll have to watch what kind of new government. The public mood definitely has went against her for a variety of reasons. I think over the years it was being built up. I don't think the quota protests were the real cause. I think the quota protests were, I would say, the trigger or the excuse to launch a regime change kind of a movement. And that is what has happened. And there are many factors in it, internal and external, largely internal. But there has been an external stimulus also to this regime change.
When you say external stimulus, didn't India also see this coming because of the sheer focus on Sheikh Hasina alone and having little engagement with anybody in opposition?
That is not true. India engages with everybody. As the former High Commissioner, I can tell you quite bluntly that while we engage with everybody, we don't normally try to interfere in what really happens. And I think you have seen from from the government stand, that we generally kept quiet. I mean, we didn't say very much on what was happening, except to sort of ensure that our nationals are safe and they could get out wherever there were problems, including nationals of other countries. We helped them. So I don't think that we were watching. I'm sure our intelligence and others had provided enough information as to what is happening. But we decided that it's best not to do anything and watch it from the outside and see how the events unfold. Probably we did not expect that it would end this way, because frankly, I don't think it should have ended this way, because the issue that was being highlighted, the quota had been solved actually by the Supreme Court decision. So the students should have simply gone home, but they didn't, because there were other factors. The students were attacked by the pro-government students, and then the police, and once the killing started, then many other people joined in, and the Islamic forces became very active, and they are very adept at these street fights and creating violence. The Jamaat-e-Islami particularly, which is known to be Pakistan's fifth column in Bangladesh for many years. They are the ones who participated in the genocide by helping the Pakistan army. So those are the kind of forces. And of course, the opposition, BNP and others who have been boycotting the election, it was too good an opportunity for them not to jump into the fray.
Okay, Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan, immediate challenge for India. What are you seeing this in from the security point of view? Because BSF has issued alerts. Of course, there is increased patrolling along the border as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for getting me on your show. The way things are at this point in time, it's mostly restricted to the internal issues in Bangladesh at this point in time. But as a precautionary measure, the BSF has already taken the actions to increase the patrolling and increase the surveillance along the India-Bangladesh border. I think that should continue. And in addition to that, of course, we need to be prepared for any other kind of issues that could come up, for which either assistance may be sought or we may have to deal with it at some point in time if it affects our territorial integrity and sovereignty, which I don't think is likely in the near future. However, we need to be careful about the border and the transgressions that could take place, that should be taken care of.
Yes, there's also an update that's coming in from the government now, and I'll bring in Vasudha for that. There will be an all-party meeting at 10 a.m. So in another 45 minutes from now, where Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju will be present. Heads of various political parties have been called for this meeting because they have been demanding clarity on the government of India. Stan, Vasudha, what are you picking up?
Well, Maria, we know that the CCS, the Cabinet Committee on Security, met yesterday, and the meeting, the visuals showed us that there were also people from intelligence agencies and also, top bureaucrats in the government. And clearly, like our panelists were also saying, that there is going to be a fallout of this, and this is a diplomatic dilemma for India because, we've had a very trusted friendship with Sheikh Hasina for the last many years. In fact, the last 10 years have been seen as Shonali Adhyay, golden era of diplomacy between India and Bangladesh, and BNP and Jamaat have not been really pleasant with us, be it the kind of, push to extremism, or for that matter, even, housing some of these alpha nationalists or insurgents that Northeast has always suffered from. So these two parties are a problem, which is why India will have to do business with them, at the same time send out a message that it really, is worried and concerned and very emphatic that it is going to protect its own rights, which is why, like you said, Daljit Singh Chaudhary, the DG of BSF, actually had a full-blown review of, what is happening in the northeastern states. Meghalaya has issued a night curfew. There is the 4 border districts of Assam are on high alert. There is full-blown surveillance happening in Tripura and Meghalaya also. So clearly, while border issues are one thing, diplomacy is another thing. Yesterday, Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition, also, walked up to Dr. S. Jaishankar and asked him as to what is happening. So there is a lot of demand from opposition party to know as to what really is happening there, and how is India sort of not only going to look at its own allies to stabilize the situation in Bangladesh, at the same time ensure that the fallout really doesn't worsen the situation, the border situation in India. So clearly this meeting and 10 o'clock is aimed at issuing some clarity on India's position in this. At the same time, Sheikh Hasina has taken refuge here, and she's of course going to fly out, and this is not new because we've seen this happening with Mujibur, Sheikh Hasina between 1975 to 1980 as well. We have seen similar situations unfolding in Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. So India is used to neighborhood being a little embattled, but clearly this is a diplomatic dilemma, and which is why India will also, Dr. Jaishankar will also most likely issue a statement, but of course a decision on that will be taken in this all-party meeting that will take place at 10 a.m. All opposition parties, the major ones, have been called for this. We'll have to wait and see as to how many of them actually attend. The top guns in the government will be part of this meeting, is what I hear.
Okay, before I let you go, Vasudha, this is the meeting which is likely to take place inside Parliament. So floor leaders or heads of various political parties have been called for it.
Absolutely, Maria. Top leaders of different parties have been called for it, and this is something that Rahul Gandhi did speak to Dr. Jaishankar about here. In fact, there was somebody who was standing next to him told us that he asked a lot of questions as to has she arrived, what are you going to do with it, how is the situation there, and of course Dr. S. Jaishankar said that there is need, there is going to be clarity on this. We did see that the NSA received her yesterday, and this is also a message that India wants to send out, that it stands by friends. At the same time, it will be hoping to do business with whoever the next government is. The army has already introduced an interim government, and there is Khalida Zia in the past has already said that all the decisions that Sheikh Hasina has taken will be reviewed. Jamaat has not been great to us in terms of its own policy and politics. So clearly, many policies re-strategizing India will have to do. At the same time, take the opposition along. This is not just a diplomatic situation. We share a border, a 4,000-kilometer border with Bangladesh, which is why there are security implications for the country, which is why this all-party meeting is important to show where India stands diplomatically and also what kind of action it is taken to ensure the fallout of this situation, this disaster, this tragedy is sort of limited as far as India is concerned.
Yes, and Indian polity has to send a message of no chaos domestically as well. Vasudha, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Let me bring in Ghazali, who's joining us from outside the Hindon Air Base as well. Ghazali, the former Prime Minister is here in India. There's no clarity yet on when the asylum in UK likely to happen. But recalibration on part of India is very, very important. There is a great degree of uncertainty, not just in Bangladesh, but in several countries and, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, as you pointed out. So do you think it is only becoming difficult for India to understand maneuver over diplomatically as the changes happen in the neighborhood?
See, multiple challenges, Maria. One, when Sheikh Hasina was in power in Bangladesh for the last 10 years, when Mr. Modi was in power for the last 10 years, there was close coordination to check illegal trafficking of counterfeit currency, drugs, or even infiltration. Then, if you remember, Sheikh Hasina was here in the swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister when he took over for the third term. And the very next month in June, in the same month, they had a close meeting where it was decided that India and Bangladesh will have joint efforts to check radicalization or radicalism in both the countries. Now, all these issues or the joint efforts of both the countries to go forward, or it comes to the Teesta management, Teesta water project management, even then it appeared that India and Bangladesh are working closely. But since now Sheikh Hasina has left the country, she is no more in power, the only concern for India remains that who will be taking charge in the new government. And what we are picking up is that Awami League will certainly be left out of the government, and BNP and Jamaat Islami will run the government. Maybe some moderate faces will come over, but India will be keeping a close eye on the army chief, who appears to be moderate, as the Bangladesh watchers are saying, and India will have to have a close coordination with the army chief first rather than the government, because that will be an interim government. Yet again, India will also be closely watching the public sentiments on the streets right now, because people over there are not seeing Sheikh Hasina as somebody who is a victim and has fled, but she was seen as a dictator, because all her statements in the last few weeks since the protests erupted in Bangladesh, she had always been saying that these are Razakars or these are terrorists, these are not students, and they should be dealt with iron hand. India also shielded Bangladesh from the Western, you can say the Western criticism of her handling of the situation there. So India had always backed Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh, and always it appeared that India was backing Bangladesh. But now, since the situation has changed, India will have to be very wary of, because the instability in the neighborhood, and we saw a resemblance back in Afghanistan when the US troops had pulled out. Then Pakistan was getting very jubilant that perhaps they will have an alliance with Taliban to threaten India. India provided aid, is providing aid to Afghanistan there, and they have good coordination with Taliban as well. So in some sense, even if Islamists, or what we call the hardliners in our language here, if even they take over the charge in Bangladesh, India will certainly try to establish ties with them. But right now, helplessly, or say patiently, India will have to wait and watch to see that who takes over the government there, and what will be their stand on all the previous agreements which India had been running with the previous Bangladesh government.
Ambassador Chakravarti, coming to you again. What will be the rules of engagement going ahead, and what are the challenges you're looking at particularly? Because India's position certainly is very, very challenging at the moment.
We will certainly engage with the new government there. We've done it before. I mean, if you remember 2007, the caretaker government, what was publicly called the army-backed caretaker government, we engaged with them very closely, actually. And so many things happened during that time. The first train ran, and between Dhaka. They were very cooperative, and they realized that cooperation with India was in their own interest. I expect a similar kind of an approach from the Indian government. And I also believe that whichever government comes there will also realize that there is no alternative to cooperating with each other. And because a lot of things have been put in place, infrastructure, railways, energy projects, so many things have happened, and it has happened because of political will on both sides. Now, if they will, I'm not suggesting that they will review. They might review some of these things because that's only political. But I don't see anything drastic happening at the moment. Okay. Because any government in India will have to weigh what are the pros and cons of doing something. What I would worry about is the security situation, because our previous and past experiences with the Jamaat-e-Islami and BNP is not a happy one, because they were actively in bed with the ISI, trying to supply arms to the insurgents, and arms were actually caught. This was the famous case that happened, that arms were caught. Then they encouraged some of the extremists who were bombing people, trying to kill opponents. So that phase, I don't think that phase is going to be repeated, because when the army came in the army-backed caretaker came in, they also took up very strong measures against these radicals. So I don't think the army will be encouraging and they will tolerate these kind of radicals. And we have good connections with the army. We have annual talks. There's a lot of institutional exchanges, institutional mechanisms and platforms which we have to talk to Bangladesh. So let us wait and see. I think India will be watching. I am not, terribly concerned that everything will fall through and the bilateral ties will plummet. No, I'm afraid that would not be the correct conclusion.
You're sounding certainly very, very optimistic here, Ambassador. Let me bring in Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan as well. Lieutenant General Narasimhan, how difficult will it be to engage with the army there? Because this is a different army from what we have seen, say, 15 years ago.
There are 2-3 things I want to mention here, taking on from what Ambassador Pinnack mentioned. You see, there was a period in which the insurgents from India were actually residing in Bangladesh. And once Sheikh Hasina came, those people have been handed over. And so there's a sense of peace which came up to our northeast. Other than Manipur, I think the rest of the states are generally quietened down and they are peaceful at this point in time. That is one area I think we need to watch very, very closely, because if that incident start happening again of insurgency picking up, that is a thing that is going to be really worrying us at some point in time. That is one point. The second thing is about the armed forces. You see, we train together on a number of occasions. Like, for example, we do joint exercises. We train a lot of Bangladesh officers into Indian Army institutions, armed force institutions. And similarly, Indian armed forces officers get trained in Bangladesh institutions. There is a close kind of linkages that have been there over a long period of time. So that is something that I think will continue over a period of time. And so that is, we need to be watching it very carefully, and that should keep continuing. The other thing is about maintaining the contact with the army in power in Bangladesh. I think that will happen over a period of time. Now, of course, what you see in the streets is the initial euphoria of the regime change. But once things settle down, the realities will come into play. And that is where you find that the trade relations between India and Bangladesh are very large, actually speaking. Even though they boast of large trade between China and Bangladesh, but it is one-sided. A lot of imports take place from China, but exports are very minimal. If you look at India-Bangladesh trade, it is the other way around. You have a lot of almost equal kind of trade that goes on. So this is something that will work into play, will come into play. Other than that, the medical tourism, which has been an important aspect in Bangladesh-India relations. A lot of Bangladesh people come to India for medical treatment, etc. Those dependencies will also be there and will continue. So if you put all this in one particular metrics, I think we need to watch the next 2 to 3 months very closely. We should not allow the insurgency to pick up in our northeast. Otherwise, we need to maintain our good relations between armed forces and with the government that could come up in future.
Okay, before I let you go, Ambassador, the reports that are coming in is of the former Prime Minister seeking asylum in UK. Why do you think it's taking time? Does it have to do with the relationship that she has, which is rather sour, with her niece?
Well, I don't know the details, but UK must be mulling over the fact that they have already given asylum to, you could say, one of our political opponents or even an enemy, Khaleda Zia's son, Tariq Zia. Given the choice of either being in jail or taking asylum by the caretaker government in 2007. So I think that could be one thing, because that could lead to, I don't know, street clashes in London between Awami League and BNP, that kind of stuff. So they must be assessing that as well. Because, but I think London would be the obvious choice, because her sister, Rehana, is, I think, a dual citizen, and she has property and residence there because she was married to someone in London. Her daughter is an MP from the Labour Party, and so I think she has family connections there. So that, I believe, might pull her towards London rather than any other place.
All right, Ambassador Pinnock and Lieutenant General Narasimhan, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV early morning. Let me bring in Saurav, who is at one of the border locations. Remember, India and Bangladesh share a long border of almost 4,000 kilometers. And in several places, this is a porous border. There are reports coming in on attack on minorities in Bangladesh. So is India also looking at giving some kind of asylum to those minorities? All those questions abound as we look at annual party meeting, which will be chaired at 10 a.m. Sort of, in terms of the Border Security Force increasing its patrolling, is that visible on ground? Is there extra check in place to ensure that there's no illegal infiltration?
Absolutely, there are extra checks in place, and in fact the BSF is very, very alert today. While these checks that you see are regular at the border, you can see, of course, this man being frisked as he gets off the truck, and then, of course, you will see BSF personnel searching the truck, because while it is an Indian registration truck, it is also going to be searched here as we speak. Now, these are truck drivers whose trucks are going to be searched, and you can see there's a BSF post. I'll ask him, कल आप लोग वहाँ पे थे, कल क्या देखे थे वहाँ पे, कुछ झमेला हुआ क्या?
नहीं कुछ झमेला नहीं हुआ है.
So you can see, of course, each and if the truck is also searched in detail. I mean, BSF personnel board the truck, see every nook and corner, every cavity to see that, ensure that there is absolutely, you can see, of course, this gentleman being frisked by the BSF, and this is the level of alert on the India-Bangladesh border. And as this truck moves forward, I will show you a photograph that's quite poignant, and poignant because of the pictures that have emerged from Dhaka yesterday. And of course, there's also a tweet from Tariq Rahman, which also I will read out in just a bit because that's important. But I mean, I can ask my camera person to show you now. On the side of Bangladesh, what you can see is a photo of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman welcoming people to Bangladesh. And of course, we saw statues of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman yesterday being brought down. And of course, these are pictures. The photos that you see now, the frame that you see is, of course, on the Bangladesh side. And you can see trucks coming in to India from the Bangladesh side. So on the border, there is, of course, movement, but very strict vigil by the BSF. Now, let me talk about the situation in Bangladesh. And we have a statement from Tariq Rahman, who is Khaleda Zia's son. And you would remember yesterday, of course, her order was, her release was ordered by the president of Bangladesh. And he says, Tariq Rahman says, I call upon the people of Bangladesh to display restraint and calm in the midst of this transitional moment in our democratic path. it is our duty to protect all Bangladeshis, irrespective of religion and politics, from discriminatory violence, and not to harass anyone or any particular community, create division or seek vengeance. And then, of course, the most important part, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, believers, atheists, no one will be left behind or be prejudiced in our democratic path. Together, we are all proudly Bangladeshis. Of course, it's a long statement, and we can, of course, refer to the rest of it later, but this is the situation. Bangladesh, of course, still does not have a government. An interim government has to be put in place. On the other side of the border, things are tense. Very, very strict vigil and checking by the BSF. Some truck drivers yesterday told us that, they had seen some amount of violence, but at this point, though, you can see very, very strict vigil as the BSF keeps an eye on what is going on across the border. Dhaka is barely 300 kilometers from here down this road via Joshore. And of course, there are buses that travel to Dhaka via this border. So it's not very far from where the epicenter of all the action is. But this is how far we can come as far as the situation in Bangladesh is concerned.
Saurav, thank you so much. We also have Ambassador Sajjan Har joining us this morning. Ambassador Sajjan Har, always a pleasure to have you on my shows. Very, very good morning to you, sir. But my first question, of course, would be, how do you think Sheikh Hasina's resignation, and also in many ways, she's in India for the last 12 hours, impact India-Bangladesh ties?
Thank you very much, Maria. Also a pleasure always for me to be on your shows. I think this is a very uncertain situation and developing situation and evolving situation. We'll have to see how it goes, where it goes. India has, of course, there's not the first time that India is facing such a situation as far as Bangladesh is concerned. But I think some broad brush comments, if I could make at this stage. One thing is very clear, that whatever bonhomie we had with the Bangladesh government for the last 15 years, I think that is something going to be a matter of the past. I think we can, for some time to come at least, we can forget about it. Because Sheikh Hasina was seen to be very close to India. India was seen to be very supportive, very close to Sheikh Hasina. In fact, there had been demonstrations in recent months on the similar lines to what happened in Maldives India Out campaign that did not get so much of traction as it did in the Maldives. But these sentiments were there, and the pictures that you showed yesterday, you did see that there were some protesters who were banging with sticks on Indian flags. So as far as the bonhomie is concerned, it is, I think, for some time to come, it's going to be a matter of, the past. We'll really have to start from scratch, building our relations with Bangladesh. Second is powers which are inimical to India, which are hostile to India, which are adversarial to India, particularly Pakistan and China. I think they will have a much bigger say. They'll have a much bigger role to play, because what is going to come into play, what is going to come to power in Dhaka is going to be BNP, is going to be Jamaat-e-Islami. Both of them have been in favor of Pakistan. In fact, these parties did not want the separation from Pakistan, the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971 to happen. And this has been their stated policy right through, that they have to have stronger relations with Pakistan and get India out of Bangladesh, not have very close, cordial relations. And now that we see over this period, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, the relations with China also have, between India and China, have sullied, have soured. There would be an interest both on the part of BNP and Jamaat to get closer to China. And of course, China, it would be very willing to fish in these troubled waters. In fact, even with Sheikh Hasina, they had been going out of the way to provide all the facilities in terms of all the support in terms of defense equipment, trade, investment. So I think on the geopolitical side, on the strategic side, I'm not talking so much on the bilateral side, we can discuss that also, but on the geostrategic platform, I think the coming days, weeks, months, maybe even years are going to be difficult for India. I recall very well when I was in Dhaka, Maria, that was in the mid-90s. And BNP was in power, Khalida Zia was in power. And it was extremely difficult. Sheikh Hasina and all her supporters were literally in the doghouse, and things were very difficult for India. At that time, it was the only supporter for the BNP would have been Pakistan. Today, it is China also, in a big way with deep pockets. So I think getting them onto their side and against India, I think that would not be very difficult for China.
All right.
Maria.
Ambassador Sajjana, continue to be with us. We are also being joined by Ambassador Deepak Vora. But first up, here's my conversation with the son of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He joined us from Washington, D.C. Sajib Wazid is the son of Prime Minister, or should I say former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He's joining me right here on NDTV. Sajib, thank you so much. Your mother at present is here in New Delhi. Have you all managed to speak to her? What exactly is the situation?
Yes, I spoke to her this morning. Situation is, as you can see in Bangladesh, it's anarchy, but she's in good spirits, but she's very disappointed. It's very disheartening for her because it was her dream to turn Bangladesh into a developed country, and she worked so hard for it over the last 15 years, keeping it safe from militants as well, from terrorism. And in spite of all of that, this vocal minority in our opposition and the militants have now seized power.
And Sajib, is she on her way to a particular country? And how long is she expected to be here in India? I'm sure you would have some information on those lines.
No, actually, I don't. I didn't discuss any of that with her.
Okay, and when she left Bangladesh, particularly because the circumstances in which she has left Bangladesh raises a lot of questions, and post that we did see a lot of vandalism. The Prime Minister's home was vandalized, the Parliament has been vandalized, and of course, the statue of Sheikh Mujib has been vandalized as well. So when you look at these images, what are the thoughts of the family?
It's one of disappointment, anger, that my grandfather liberated the country and they killed him and my entire family. And now, the same powers that these are the minority that opposed the independence of Bangladesh itself. And so now they're using this opportunity to basically deny and destroy our hard-fought struggle for freedom. And it's very disheartening to see that the majority of Bangladesh are just staying silent.
And reports are also coming in that, perhaps by tomorrow morning, curfew will end and schools and businesses will reopen. That's what military is saying. So what appears is that this has been the demand of the protesters, that your mother must quit. And after that, situation is going to be normal. Are you hopeful of that?
I doubt the army will be able to... things will normalize that fast, because right now what is happening is that our opposition and the militants they're not only vandalizing, they're also hunting our party members, our leaders, our former ministers, and even from what I'm hearing, minorities. So I don't think the violence has ended. Unfortunately.
So you are of the opinion that this will not end the violence?
I don't think so.
So your mother's exit from the country will not really end the violence, is your opinion of the family?
No, that is my opinion. That is my personal opinion.
Okay, and Sajib, when the former Prime Minister left the country, could she have stayed there and been with her people rather than leaving the country? I mean, what forced her to leave the country?
We did, the family. She wanted to stay. She did not want to leave the country at all. But we kept insisting that it wasn't safe for her. We were concerned with her physical safety first.
Okay, and
so we persuaded her to leave.
Okay, and what is it that the family expects next?
Well, we hope that there will be elections in Bangladesh, but at this time, with our party people and our party leaders being targeted, I don't see how free and fair elections would be possible. And unfortunately, it's in a way, it's it's no longer the family's responsibility. We have shown what we can do. We have shown how much we can develop Bangladesh, and if the people of Bangladesh aren't willing to stand up for that, if they're willing to let this violent minority seize power, then people get the leadership they deserve.
So a lot of disappointment in the family. You're of the opinion that your mother did the best she could for the country?
Absolutely. And I think now Bangladesh, if the Awami League cannot participate in election, and I do believe the Awami League still remains popular and in fact still remains the most popular party in the country. And if there are free and fair elections, I'm confident that the Awami League would win. But under the present circumstances, it's that is why they're trying to destroy the Awami League physically. They've destroyed our party offices as well. And under those circumstances, unfortunately, BNP Jamaat has a chance of coming back to power, and we've all seen what they were like the last time. They ran the country into the ground. They ran the economy into the ground. They were the most corrupt government in the history of Bangladesh, and the militants had a free hand. They attacked minorities with impunity.
Ambassador Deepak Vora is also joining this broadcast. Ambassador Vora, how are you looking at the situation at present, and what do you think will happen, and why this delay by United Kingdom in granting asylum to the former Prime Minister? You have to unmute yourself, sir. We can't
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A privilege, pleasure to be on your amazing channel. You are brilliant. And I just heard that kid talk about his mother's dream to make Bangladesh into a developed country. I'm special advisor in 3 African countries.
And he also said that the people get the leadership they deserve with a lot of angst.
Yeah, that was not something that he should have said, but he's a child. And I'm special advisor in 3 African countries. All their leaders have dreams of becoming the richest and most powerful, even though those countries are the poorest in the world. Now, all these dreams, etc., this nonsense, I think we should ignore. What is happening in Bangladesh, and I see that you have my colleague, Ambassador Ashok Sajanar, whose knowledge is far superior to mine. Let me just say, ma'am, that I see 5 issues in this. I've observed that country carefully. I've been there. I've served in the region. May I just say the 5 things that I see happening? Number 1, radical Islamization. Before Bangladesh's creation, ma'am, 1 out of 10 East Pakistani women would wear the hijab. 1 out of 10. Today, it is 11 out of 10. Severe economic downturn with high inflation, shortage of foreign exchange. Development without employment for young people. Threat of climate change and foreign, especially Western interference by regime change specialists. I'm seeing this happen. Even though in recent months, Bangladesh has moved away, as far as Ukraine is concerned, to a pro-Western approach, denying access to Russian ships. Then they moved away from China by agreeing to this official security assistance agreement with Japan. Nevertheless, the West does not, I say this very slowly, does not trust Sheikh Hasina because of her flip-flops as far as foreign policy is concerned. They wanted someone like the clown of Kiev, that chap who was a circus chap who rules Ukraine. They want someone like that whom they can control. I believe this is the reason. Now, what will be the impact on India? Stitch. Ma'am, India does not deal with personalities. We deal with whoever forms the government. We've done it with Afghanistan, with Pakistan, with Sri Lanka, with Myanmar, etc., etc. To say that now that she's been ousted, everything is going to go wrong for India, these guys have no idea of diplomacy. We'll deal with whoever forms the government. And I'm confident that after a period of turmoil, as always happens, Bangladesh will find its stability.
Okay, so yes, how long will this period of turmoil be, according to you?
You know, it's very difficult to make a prediction because I wish I were a Joshi. But nevertheless, I'd like to say probably within the next 2 weeks, India has very deep brand equity in Bangladesh, and the investments, the support, the official soft loans that we have given. Bangladeshis understand this very well. There are a handful who scream loudly in the media, India out, India this, India that. Remember, ma'am, we've heard about this. Oh, India has lost Bangladesh, India has lost Nepal, India has lost Sri Lanka, India has lost Maldives. India has lost everybody except itself. And all of them come right back because they know that when push comes to shove, the one nation that will stand by them is Bharat.
Yes. Ambassador Sajjan, last word to you before I wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, I think times are going to be difficult. You know, I have my very distinguished and esteemed colleague and friend Deepak Vora saying that, you know, things are going to be fine. I am also keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that things are going to be fine in the long run. But Maria, you and Deepak, both of you know what really happens in the long run. So I'm not going to spell that out. But I think that long run is, in my view, going to be taking some time in coming. And the next few, Deepak has mentioned 2 weeks, I think it's going to be much longer than that because no stability will return after till the elections. And even when the elections take place, you do not know what the complexion is going to be, what the architecture is going to be. Where is Awami League going to be placed there? So I think there is going to be a lot of instability in Bangladesh. And if there is, Maria, instability in our neighborhood, it definitely has a negative impact as far as India is concerned. So I think on a variety of fronts, whether it is the position of Indians, it is the position of Hindus and other minorities there, it is the rise of militancy and terrorism, etc., from Bangladesh into India, and particularly now with what is happening in Myanmar, the instability in Myanmar. And we've seen the impact, the repercussions of that in Manipur. So I think here we have the longest land border with any country, that is 4,000 kilometers.
Yes.
It's in fact even longer than our border with China, which is
That's
about
right.
3,400 kilometers. So I think there are, and even as far as the complexion of our state governments in the neighboring states is concerned, that is also a bit of a question mark. So I think there are going to be difficult times, uncertain times. But as my first comment was, Maria, this is not the first time that we are dealing with the problems of this nature. And we have a strong government in the center, a government which knows its mind, a government which knows what to do. You see what is happening in Maldives just a few months ago. It was India out, all that sort of things. And now what the tune that Maldives is singing. So I am hopeful, but I think Bangladesh.
So both of you are in agreement that these countries will turn to Bharat and all's not lost, it's only temporary. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Sajjan and Ambassador Deepak Vora. That's all from me. I'll be joining you in just a bit. Thanks so much for watching.